Mike dumped her ass. The second word got out about the pregnancy. He ghosted her, blocked her on everything. Guess he didn't want his wife finding out. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Well, 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 how the mighty have fallen. But still, I will make everything to inform his wife, but everything in right time. I don't know when the feeling started exactly, but it had been chewing at me for weeks. Nothing concrete at first, just a bunch of little things. Things I probably would have laughed off a year ago. But when you've been married to someone long enough, you notice when their smiles come off stiff, when their laughs don't reach their eyes anymore. Sarah used to laugh with her whole body. Now, I couldn't remember the last time I saw her do that. Hell, I'm not a suspicious guy by nature, but even I couldn't ignore the fact that she'd been canceling on me a lot lately, especially our date nights. Always had some excuse about work emergencies or needing to go out with her girlfriends. But here's the thing. Sarah's not exactly the best liar. I mean, she thinks she is, but I've known her too long to not pick up on the cracks. So yeah, it started gnawing at me, bit by bit, until that stupid text came in. I remember the exact moment I was sitting on the couch, TV on in the background, thumbing through my phone, bored as hell. Then I saw it, her phone lighting up on the counter. Last night was incredible. That's all it said. My heart stopped. The room suddenly felt too small, the air too thick to breathe in. I mean, what the hell? I picked up the phone, double-tapping the screen to scroll up a little, just to see if this was a joke, a stupid prank, or something. But no, my fingers stopped at Mike, her boss, of course. I set the phone back down carefully, as if too much force would break whatever thin line I was walking on. I could have gone upstairs, could have barged into our bedroom and shoved that phone in her face. I could have screamed, demanded answers, thrown her keys into the street. There was more than enough reason. But no, that'd be too easy, too quick, too merciful. Sarah didn't need mercy. I stood there watching her phone dim back into darkness, my hand resting on the counter for balance. There was something bitter rising in my chest, something that tasted like bile but also felt strangely satisfying. I wasn't going to blow this now. Letting out a slow breath, I started thinking, plotting. Sarah was about to dig her own grave, and she didn't even know it yet. Over the next few days, I paid careful attention, real careful. I played my part, put on the mask of a clueless, doting husband. I kept my face neutral, my touch gentle, like nothing had changed. Meanwhile, I took those tiny steps toward figuring her out, tracking her phone, keeping tabs on her schedule. And yep, like clockwork, she wasn't where she said she would be. Wednesday afternoon, she said she was in a meeting with her team. Wrong. The GPS pinged her at the Lux Hotel downtown. Jesus Christ, she wasn't even trying to hide it anymore. It was all falling into place real neatly, like some twisted puzzle I didn't even want to solve. But what really got to me, what twisted the knife a little deeper, were the phone calls. Frequent ones from Mike. It was blatant. This behavior didn't have a single shred of subtlety in him. No late-night secret calls, nothing discreet, just straight-up disturbed phone calls from 9 o'clock in the morning until noon. All hours of the day. I flicked through the call log like I was looking at a grocery list. Rage simmered low and silent in my gut, but I kept the lid on it. And then another idea hit me, one that made me surprised even at myself. She'd been on birth control for years now. Her lifestyle, her career, it had always been the focus. No kids, not yet, she used to say. And I respected that, pushed my own thoughts down because, well, I loved her. And that's what you do, right? But now, I opened the bathroom cabinet, the small one above the sink. I'd seen them there 1,000 times. Her little orange packet of pills. She's meticulous about taking them, and I smiled in the reflection before replacing them with something else. Fertility drugs aren't hard to get if you know the right people. I wanted to see how far she'd go, how deep she'd bury herself in this affair, all while a life grew inside her. A life she wouldn't know was mine recently deleted conversation. She thought I didn't notice. It was all just building up. When she smiled at me before heading out the door earlier, something twisted and pleased in me, like I was sitting front row at a movie she didn't know I was holding the remote to. The next day, I stood in the kitchen, humming to myself as I prepared Sarah's favorite meal, seared salmon with roasted asparagus and lemon butter sauce. The aroma filled our home, masking the bitterness I felt inside as I heard the front door open. "Honey, I'm home," Sarah called out. "Babe?" I replied, my voice dripping with fake enthusiasm. "I've got a surprise for you." Sarah walked in, her eyes widening at the sight of the candlelit table and the bottle of wine chilling in an ice bucket. "John, what's all this?" she asked, a hint of guilt in her voice. I turned to her, grinning. "Can't a man spoil his beautiful wife once in a while?" She laughed nervously, setting down her purse. "Of course, it's just unexpected." "Well, sit down, dinner's almost ready," I said, turning back to the stove. As we ate, I watched Sarah carefully. She seemed distracted, checking her phone more often than usual. I knew she was probably texting Mike, but I kept my cool. "So, I was thinking," I said casually, refilling her wine glass. "How about we take a weekend getaway? Just the two of us, like old times?" Sarah's fork paused midway to her mouth. "Oh, that sounds nice. When were you thinking? How about next weekend? I could book us a cozy cabin in the mountains. No cell service, no distractions, just us." I could see the panic in her eyes as she scrambled for an excuse. "Next weekend? I think I have a work thing." "Cancel it," I said, reaching across the table to take her hand. "Come on, Sarah. When's the last time we did something spontaneous?" She hesitated, then nodded. "You're right. Let's do it." As the week progressed, I continued my charade of the doting husband. I left her little love notes, brought her coffee in bed, and even surprised her with flowers at work. Each gesture was a twist of the knife, knowing how she was betraying me behind my back. Finally, the night arrived when everything would start to unravel. I was in the bedroom, pretending to read a book, when Sarah stumbled in looking pale. "You okay, honey?" I asked, fighting concern. She shook her head, sitting on the edge of the bed. "I don't know. I've been feeling nauseous all day. Must be stressed from work." I nodded sympathetically, hiding my smirk behind my book. "Maybe you should take a pregnancy test, just to be safe." Sarah laughed nervously. No, that's not possible. We've been careful and I'm on birth control still." I insisted. "It wouldn't hurt to check," I added, and reluctantly she agreed. I waited in the bedroom while she went to the bathroom. A few minutes later, I heard a gasp, quietly made my way to the doorway, and watched as Sarah stared at the test in disbelief. "No," she whispered, her face a mix of shock and horror. "This can't be right." I had to bite my tongue to keep from laughing. The look of panic on her face was priceless. This was just the beginning of her perfect little world falling apart, and I couldn't wait to see what happened next. I walked through the front door, my heart pounding with a mix of anticipation and rage. It had been a month since I'd first discovered Sarah's pregnancy, and now I held all the cards. The house was quiet as I made my way upstairs, my footsteps muffled by the plush carpet. As I approached our bedroom, I heard the faint tapping of fingers on a phone screen. Sarah was in there, probably texting her lover. The thought made my blood boil, but I forced myself to remain calm. This was my moment, and I wasn't about to let my emotions ruin it. I eased the door open, thankful for the well-oiled hinges. Sarah was sprawled across our bed, completely engrossed in her phone, and didn't even notice me enter. I stood there for a moment, taking in the sight of my cheating wife, blissfully unaware that her world was about to come crashing down. Finally, Sarah looked up, her eyes widening in shock as she saw me standing there. I couldn't help but smile, though I'm sure it didn't reach my eyes. "So, when were you going to tell me about the baby?" I began, my voice eerily calm. "Or is Mike supposed to be the dad?" The color drained from Sarah's face. Her phone slipped from her grasp, landing on the hardwood floor with a loud clatter. "John, it's not this, it isn't what it looks like," Sarah stammered, her voice high-pitched and panicky. I scoffed, pulling out my own phone. "Save it, Sarah. I'm not interested in your lies anymore." I tossed my phone onto the bed. The screen opened to a damning text from Mike. Sarah's eyes darted to the screen, and I watched as the realization hit her. The text was clear as day. Can't wait for our future together. We'll raise this baby, right? Just you and me. How did you? Sarah's words trailed off, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. I started pacing the room, my calm facade barely containing the storm of emotions inside me. You think I didn't know? You've been so sloppy, Sarah. Did you really think I wouldn't notice how distant you've been? Sarah pulled her knees to her chest, looking small and pathetic on our king-sized bed. John, please, I can explain. I cut her off with a harsh laugh. Explain what? How you've been sleeping with your boss behind my back. How you got knocked up and thought you could pass it off as mine. I shook my head, disgust evident in my voice. You must think I'm a complete idiot. Tears were streaming down Sarah's face now, but I felt no sympathy. Instead, I decided to drop my final bombshell. But the joke's on you, Sarah, I said, a wicked grin spreading across my face. You've been popping those fertility pills I swapped in place of your birth control for months now. Sarah's eyes widened in horror as the implication of my words sank in. You, what? No, that's not possible. Oh, it's very possible, I replied, relishing her shocked expression. Hope Mike's ready to be a dad because I sure as hell won't be raising his bastard. I turned and left the room, leaving Sarah to process what I just revealed. I could hear her sobbing as I made my way to my home office. I grabbed the manila envelope I'd prepared weeks ago and headed back to the bedroom. Sarah was exactly where I'd left her, her makeup streaked down her face. I tossed the envelope onto the bed, right in front of her. What's this? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Open it, I commanded, my hands trembling. Sarah reached for the envelope. She pulled out the contents, her eyes scanning the first page. Fresh tears welled up as she realized what she was holding. Divorce papers, I said coldly. I've already signed them. You just need to sign your name, and this nightmare is over. Sarah looked up at me, her eyes pleading. John, please, we can work this out. I'll end things with Mike, I swear. I love you. Save it. I spat. I don't want to hear your excuses or your lies. I don't want anything from you, Sarah. No reconciliation, no second chances. Just sign the papers and get out of my life. The finality of my words seemed to shatter whatever composure Sarah had left. She broke down completely, loud sobs racking her body. Cry all you want, I said, unmoved by her tears. You earned this. That weekend, I said, set the stage perfectly. It was a cool Saturday evening, nothing too flashy, just enough to keep Sarah thinking everything was status quo. She was none the wiser, putting on that same fake smile she'd perfected over time. I watched her flit around the house, making sure the tablecloth was straight, adjusting the candles like it mattered. I leaned against the kitchen counter, arms folded, the smell of rosemary chicken filling the room, but I barely felt anything. I was just waiting for the right moment. By 6 o'clock, the guests started arriving, our closest friends, her family, mine. In any other world, this would have been a typical night, small talk and glasses of wine. But tonight wasn't any ordinary night. Sarah sat across from me at the dinner table. Dinner was in full swing, chatter bouncing off the walls. She had that glazed-over look, probably thinking about when she'd sneak in a text to her favorite distraction. Mike. I rubbed my jaw, watching her pretend to enjoy the conversation everyone else was having. John, man, you've really outdone yourself this time, said Craig from across the table, raising his glass. Craig was an old college buddy of mine, a good guy. I smiled. Well, it's a special night. Sarah glanced at me, her brow tipping up, but she didn't say anything. She probably thought I was keeping up the good husband act. Halfway through the meal, as people started relaxing more, I decided it was time. I straightened my back, lifting my glass to gain everyone's attention. To Sarah, I started looking around the table. A few people followed, lifting their glasses. Sarah's eyes flicked to me again, this time a little nervous. Good. Most of you know Sarah, and I have been together for almost 10 years now. I smiled like it was a fond memory, though my stomach twisted at the thought. Everyone murmured their agreement, nodding along. I cleared my throat. We've had our ups and downs, as all good marriages do. I paused, scanning the room. But tonight, I thought I'd share something really personal. Her face paled, subtle at first, but there it was. She shifted in her seat, her wine glass shaking a bit in her grip. She knew the walls were closing in. I just want to give thanks for those memories. You know, the long nights we spent together, the sacrifices. Especially when I found out this week that Sarah is pregnant. At this, the crowd gasped, breaking out into congratulations, clapping, and clinking glasses. Sarah just stared at her food, her lips pulled tight. She didn't smile. I wasn't done, not even close. Here's the kicker. I added my voice, sharpening like a blade. The baby isn't something we planned. In fact, Sarah had been on birth control this whole time, or so she thought. Silence. A heavy, suffocating silence. Sarah's hands started to tremble openly. Now her face frozen, going white as a ghost. She mouthed something, barely a breath, but I ignored her. You see, I switched her birth control myself. I chuckled darkly, eyes locking with hers. For months, a few shocked gasps echoed around the table, and I made sure this baby, the one she's carrying, is mine. Because my wife practically spat the word, has been sleeping with her boss for God knows how long. I could see her deflate, sinking into her chair like maybe she'd disappeared, but no one was letting her off the hook. I stared at her wide, judging, disbelieving. Rumors weren't just rumors now. And you? I added, pointing toward her. My jaw clenched. You're signing the divorce papers tonight. I'm done. She sputtered, trying to get words out, tears starting to blur her mascara. Someone, probably her sister, leaned forward like she wanted to stop me. But this wasn't getting stopped. I let the silence ride out, my heart hammering. I watched as everyone shifted awkwardly, unsure of what to say. Then, without waiting, I walked away from the table. She was left to pick up whatever shattered pieces of herself she could find. Within hours, I had uploaded everything. The screenshots of texts between her and Mike, the photos of her sneaking out late at night, the entire ugly truth. I didn't care if it made me the town villain. She deserved it. By morning, the neighborhood knew. Hell, the whole damn town knew. I sat back on the couch, scrolling through the comments. People couldn't believe it. They never thought she was capable of this. Little Miss Perfect Sarah, the queen of appearances. But now she couldn't go to the grocery store without eyes burning into the back of her head. And Mike, that smug piece of garbage, he wasn't walking away from this either. Every meeting, rumor would flare, and eventually, this would come crashing down on him too. Sarah tried to go to work like nothing happened, but every look, every laugh in the hallway. People knew she quit before they had the chance to fire her. I stood in my kitchen, sipping a glass of whiskey and scrolling through my phone. It had been a few months since I'd exposed Sarah's affair and kicked her out of my life. My phone buzzed with a notification. It was Tom, my buddy from work. Yo, John, you hear about Sarah and Mike? I smirked, typing back, no, what's the latest gossip? Mike dumped her ass the second word got out about the pregnancy. He ghosted her, blocked her on everything. Guess he didn't want his wife finding out. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Well, how the mighty have fallen. But still, I will make everything to inform his wife, but everything in right time. You're telling me? Tom replied. She's got nothing now. No job, no lover, no future. Karma's a bitch? Huh. That it is, my friend. That it is. I said. I poured myself another drink, savoring the burn as it went down. Sarah thought she was so clever, juggling her perfect little life with her dirty little secret. Now look at her. I almost felt bad. Almost. My phone buzzed again. It was Sarah's number. I declined the call without a second thought. For the next few weeks, I watched from afar as Sarah's life crumbled around her. She'd call, leave voicemails, even showed up at my doorstep once, sobbing and begging for forgiveness. I didn't give her the time of day. One night, I was out with some friends at our local bar. We were a few beers in when Sarah's name came up. "Hey John," my buddy Mark said. "You hear Sarah lost her job?" I took a swig of my beer. "Can't say I'm surprised," I replied. "Word travels fast in this town. No gossip." Mark laughed, but then added, "Man, you really dodged a bullet there." I grinned, raising my bottle to dodging bullets and karma being a bitch. The guys all cheered, clinking their bottles against mine. As the night went on, I found myself opening up more about the whole situation. The alcohol loosened my tongue, and soon I was regaling them with the whole sordid tale. "You guys want to know the best part?" I said, leaning in conspiratorially. "That baby she's carrying? It's mine." Their jaws dropped. "What?" Mark sputtered, but I cut him off with a laugh. "Oh yeah, she thought it was Mike's, but I'd been swapping out her birth control for months. I made sure the kid was mine before I kicked her cheating ass to the curb." There was a moment of stunned silence before the table erupted in laughter and disbelief. "Holy shit," Tom exclaimed. "That's some next-level revenge, right there." I shrugged, feeling pretty damn pleased with myself. What can I say? I play the long game. As the weeks turned into months, I found myself thriving. I started dating again, enjoying my newfound freedom. Every time I ran into someone from our old social circle, I made sure to drop a few choice comments about Sarah and her situation. "Yeah, it's a shame about Sarah," I'd say with mock sympathy. "But hey, at least she'll have Mike's kid to keep her company." "Oh wait, he wants nothing to do with either of them." They ate it up. I went from being the poor cuckolded husband to the guy who got the last laugh. My confidence soared. I felt invincible. One day, as I was leaving work, I spotted Sarah across the street. She looked terrible, dark circles under her eyes, clothes hanging off her frame, her pregnant belly impossible to miss. For a brief moment, our eyes met. I saw the desperation in her gaze, the silent plea for help. I just smiled, gave her a little wave, and walked away.